Hello and welcome back. We have been knitting along on our little sample project here, and we are to our last little step on this project, and that involves weaving in our ends. So we've got several little tails here. We have our tail at the bound off edge, we have a tail at our cast on edge, and then we have two tails where we joined the new yarn. This step is called the finishing, and lots of people who knit really dislike this part of the process. They just like the knitting part, they want to do the knitting, they can't stand the finishing. And you will have people that will actually have beautiful projects that never get finished because they just don't like this part. So for me, I don't mind. I like a little hand sewing. This reminds me of hand sewing, so I'm fine with it. But you're wondering, how do we do this? I mean, obviously you can't use a regular needle to do this, so we're going to use something called a tapestry needle. And this is pretty much how they come. This is a Clover product. They're like super easy to find. They're in all the craft stores. They come in this little tube, and you just take off the top. There's generally going to be two of them in there. You're always going to lose them, so just go ahead and buy a few of these. You will use them. And what you can see is that it's like really big, and it's got this giant eye, and that's so you can get the yarn through, and it's got like just a little bit of a twist. So we talked before about the right side and the wrong side of the project. So this is our right side, and this is like the side that we would want to show people. So if this were a sweater, this would be the outside. This would be the part that we would want everyone to see, and then this would be what we would call our wrong side. And in this case, we know that because of the work here. So we always want to weave in our ends on our project wrong side. Any work that you're doing, you do on the wrong side of the project. You don't want to weave your ends in on your right side, obviously. I guess you could if you wanted that as a design element, but we're being sort of traditional in our approach right now, and you can always break rules later. So let's look at weaving in the ends. And there are different ways of doing this. The way I'm going to show you today is what I think is the absolute easiest way for beginners. There's another way that I think is a little more advanced. I think it's harder to follow. I like this way. It blends in beautifully. You don't see where you've worked the yarn, and the ends stay put. So that's what we're going to do for today. Now, the easiest way to get the yarn through that needle eye is to fold it over, and then you're going to just kind of squish down and fiddle and get that yarn through. And you can see that this has this is called a 2-ply, and what that means is there's two small strands of yarn that are twisted together, so that's 2-ply. Okay, so your plies might come apart when you run them through the needle. That's all right, just you can work with it. All right, so here's our end, and we want this to be like as neat as possible. So we're going to just kind of fiddle around with bringing that end down. And what I generally do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to come under this first bump here. Okay? And if I pull it, see, I'm just gently snugging. I just want it to look like the rest of the edge. Okay, and that looks good to me. So then what I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to come under this bump. And then I'm going to go under this bump. And I'm just going to go back and forth following this row of knitting. This will be easier to see when we go down to the gray. That's why I recommend the gray for your first project, because it's so much easier for you to see what's going on. Okay, and then I'll do one more. and that's it. Okay, and then stretch it, and then you're going to take your scissors and snip, and then you're just going to fill it, and you can very carefully, just like that, and there it is. And you have now woven in that end. Let's look at it with the cast on edge. I think it's easier to see with this yarn. And this is another 2-ply. These are the same yarns. They're both bulky weight yarns. They're from the same manufacturer. They're in the same product line. I think that's really the easiest way to put yarns together, especially when you're starting out. So we want to just take this and we just want to try to be nice and neat. And see how I'm coming under that stitch? Now let's turn it over and see how it looks. Just gonna fiddle around with it a little bit, and I think that looks pretty good. Okay, and we're going to come under, and I'm going to come up closer so you can see what I'm doing. See how it just goes like right under that stitch. And I'm just following along that row. And this is, this can be hotly debated. Not everybody likes to finish their garter this way, but I think it's the easiest way to see what's going on for a beginner person. And I mean, it's invisible. You can't see it at all on that side, and it holds really well. Okay, so we're going to nip that off. And there you have it. Now, let's do where we did our join. Kind of neaten that up a little bit, and so another hotly debated issue is tying knots in your yarn. If you do that, it will definitely hold it in place. A lot of people do not like any kind of knots in the yarn. They just think that's a bad practice. Elizabeth Zimmerman, who is like, I don't know, the main person in all of knitting, she said knots are okay. Stacy from Very Pink says knots are okay. So you know what? If it's okay for them, I think it's okay for us. I personally would not do a knot on my side like this, but I think for somebody starting out, it's super helpful. So just kind of, fiddle around with it a little bit and get it so it looks nice and neat. It's always just take your time with this part. I don't know. I think this is kind of relaxing. It doesn't bother me. But like I said, I like hand sewing. I do a little embroidery. So I enjoy the sewing part of this. This is what we're going to do. So we're going to come under here. That down. And then we're going to just go to the next stitch. And that's all you're doing. You're just kind of coming under each of those purl bumps. These are your purl stitches. So you're making purl stitches and you don't even know it. Isn't that amazing and cool? As we continue the series, we'll do purls intentionally. Okay, and this is all I do. For garter stitch, I think this is just super easy. Okay, and now we'll do our blue. One tip I have for you, if you're doing a striped or color blocked project, something that you can do is, especially a scarf, because they're long, you're going to have a lot of changes. something you can do to make it a little bit easier on yourself is, knit a while on the project, and then stop and have a night where you just sit and finish, and you just, do your finishing part, and then you can pick it up the next night and get back to knitting. So I'm just over and under. That's all I'm doing. And that blends right in. If we wanted to, we can just go down here. And work it in the blue. Just play with it, Stitch it as you see fit. Okay, there it is. All right, so just stretch your knitting a little bit. This is a nice, garter is nice and stretchy. This particular yarn has wool in it. I definitely recommend wool content. It just makes it so much easier to see your stitches. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so there we go. There is our little finished sample, and you can see a little do watch it there where we did our knot. If that bothers you, don't do the knot. But that's how you do your weaving in the ends on your garter stitch. Okay, and that is your completed little sample. If you want to continue playing with the sample, you can add a little fringe. Get a feel for adding fringe. I'll link to that video. And you can also get a feel for adding a tassel and see what that's like. Making those. These are really fun. You can add these to a lot of projects. But there you have it. That is your complete course and starting your scarf. And today we looked at weaving in our ends. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you found that helpful. I will see you in the next video.